Play of the game.
Hello there and welcome to Overwatch. Now this is a game that I have really been enjoying in the last few, days I guess, because I haven't had much of a chance to play it on account of being on holiday, but I really do like it. Now for those of you who don't know, Overwatch is Blizzard's latest first-person shooter game. So you can choose from a number of different heroes, each with their own unique abilities and attributes. We are playing as Soldier 76, largely because Overwatch is a very opaque game to people who haven't seen it before, and I think that 76 is probably the most accessible because he's just so sort of generic, I guess. Which isn't meant as an insult here, it just means that he's a bit more to do with the traditional first-person shooter games. So the game mode that we're playing at the moment is probably best described as King of the Hill. In other words, there is a single control point which both teams are competing to capture, and basically you win the game by capturing the point and then holding it for as long as possible. The control point hasn't actually unlocked yet, but it soon will. So a little bit more about Soldier 76 himself. Like just about all heroes, I think there are some who have maybe more or less, but he has 3 abilities, one of which we have just used, which is Biotic Field, which puts down a little bit of a healing item which people can use to heal, including ourselves, so that's going to be pretty handy. We also have Sprint because we're so incredibly generic, which has no cooldown and is literally just by pressing shift. The other characters don't have this, so this is a very handy boost to mobility. And we've also got Cluster Rockets, which is on our right click, and that which is something I've used there, and that means it's effectively a grenade launcher, which is very handy indeed, and also pretty generic. But of course that does give him a lot of utility, high mobility, high burst damage, and also he has the ability to heal himself, which most people don't have. He does have an ultimate called Tactical Visor, which has just actually finished charging up, but I will come to that when I actually come to use it. One thing that you've probably noticed as I've been playing is that there is actually not an assist system in this game, as in kill assist. Instead, you simply get points for an elimination for every single enemy that you hit, which is kind of silly if you ask me. If you've only done 1% damage to the enemy, you'll still get counted as getting a kill. But I guess it does help with kill stealing and that sort of thing, and makes the game just a bit more fun because you feel like you're doing more. And for a player with somewhat limited abilities like me, don't be fooled by this, I'm really not much good at this game. But with limited abilities it does make you feel like you're actually doing something that's very handy for the team, even if you're only sort of dealing a little bit of damage. And in terms of damage, that is Soldier 76's primary function. He is an offensive hero. The heroes are sorted into offensive, defensive and support. Although if you ask me, those roles are very much arbitrary, and in fact you can probably use most of the other characters. Like defensive characters can definitely be used on offense, and defensive characters are very viable on defense often. Each character does have an ultimate ability which charges, as I've mentioned before. We just saw Genji, who was running around with a big sword, and we've got a few more abilities which I'm just going to try and point out as we go through. That was May's Ice Wall that you just saw there. She's a very annoying character who, I hate to say it, but I feel like she might be a little bit OP. That's just probably because I'm a little bit new to the game though. And here's my particular ultimate, which is Tactical Visor. It is almost literally an aimbot, so I just put the enemy in that little circle, and I can shoot them and it'll lock onto their heads. There's another ultimate being used, that's Hanzo's. He fires 2 glowing dragon spirits or something like that coming up, and that does a ton of damage, and we were quite lucky to avoid that actually. And it is now onto the second round. Having finished the first round, it is best of 3, so if we win the second round then we win overall. One thing I would say is between rounds and the start of rounds there might just be a little bit too much hanging around. As you can see, people are sort of, there are things to keep us amused like basketballs and various bits of things that we can break in here, but I would appreciate it if it was maybe just a 10-second gap between rounds, because you can swap heroes in between if you feel like it. I just think that would be maybe a little bit better. I don't know. But as I say, I am fairly new to this game, so I probably can't talk just yet. It's a new map though, and there is a different control point, but it hasn't unlocked just yet. Although we do have some guys here. We have Winston the Gorilla, and also, is that Reaper? Yeah, I think that was Reaper. And there's Farah there, so we're just going to knock them down with the whole team. Again, I'm not really getting the final blows on these guys, but because of the way it works, I'm getting eliminations all the same. And also, I don't know if you've noticed that little icon in the bottom left of the screen, which is on fire right now. That means I'm doing pretty well. And it's generally a good thing to be spending quite a while on fire as it is. Our team is very much dominating this particular round. As you can see, they're not really getting much of a chance at getting to the objective because we are just being super efficient in taking them out straight away. And the few that do get close, well, we've got enough people around it, I think. They are taking it now, so it's time to see if we can get in there and stop that. We've got some teammates with us though, so we can quite easily just finish off these two. As I say, if you are fairly new to this game, Soldier 76 is definitely a hero that you can't really go far wrong with just by sort of clicking on the target. It's a hit scan weapon, so you can just keep on dishing out a bit of damage, little damage if you're not a great shot. It doesn't really matter too much because you can just set up targets for your teammates to finish off and you'll get quite a few points for that, as is sort of happening here. And he is also a fair bit of fun to play, simply because he is familiar to first-person shooter players and other games as such. I would say he's probably not the hero that I'm best with, although when the going gets tough, he is someone I generally do tend to fall back on. However, in Overwatch, hero swapping is a very key component. In other words, if it's not working so well, or if you feel like there's a change needed, or you're getting countered by someone else, because there are quite hard counters in this game, then it's definitely a good idea to get good at various different heroes, particularly one from each class, if you like. So, for example, Lucio is probably my favourite support, because he's nice and easy to use. It's a nice area of effect heal. In terms of tanks, Reinhardt is one that I do like, because of his big shield, and again, that makes him quite easy to use. And finally, on defense, I think Widowmaker is probably my best option, although she can be used on both attack and defense. In terms of heroes I want to get good with, I would very much like to be good at Tracer and possibly Genji, maybe Zenyatta as a healer because he can do a lot of damage as well as healing people. But those will definitely be for the future. Winston also looks quite fun to play because of his great mobility, and maybe Reaper too. But for now, this round is coming to an end. As you can see, the overtime bar has just completely filled and we are victorious. As you saw at the very beginning with one of my plays from Widowmaker, there will soon be a play of the game at the end, which is just effectively the game chooses its favourite part. In this case it was Reaper. I expect he's probably going to use his ultimate ability, which usually gets the majority of plays of the games when it's him, or perhaps not. No, it looks like he's just going to go around with those shotguns and do some work. I think I helped him out a bit there with putting some damage on people. So yeah, overall, a pretty good score for me. It counted as being 25 eliminations for myself. Yes, I did vote for myself there, which is probably bad practice and a little embarrassing, but hey, I thought I did well there, even if not many other people did. Although it's worth noting that I only did get 11 final blows, so if it hadn't been for the rather generous elimination system, then I would have only got 11 kills. Regardless, thanks for watching. Leave a like if you want to see more of this sort of thing, and subscribe to see more, I guess, and I will see you on the battlefield.